There's a little-known part of Hollywood that most people are not aware of, known as the Audience Test Preview. The recently released book, Audienceology, reveals this for the first time. Our podcast series, Don't Kill the Messenger, brings this book to life, taking a peek behind the curtain. And now, join author and entertainment research expert, Kevin Goetz.
Welcome back, listeners. This is part 2 of my interview with actress, human rights activist, painter, and writer, the beautiful and iconic and one of my dearest friends, Sharon Stone. Sharon, 17 movies later, you now are doing your 18th movie, so we're talking a full decade later. After that Woody Allen experience, you arrived in Cannes for the premiere of Basic Instinct.
Yeah, we opened the festival.
You opened the festival, and you went in as a working actress.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the story so much. One of my favorites, actually. And you emerged from the Palais as an international movie star. What does that feel like?
Well, it was pretty much walking in because they'd been showing it all day. And Coralco had put me in a hotel.
That was the company who made it, Mario Kassar and Andy Vanya.
Had put me on a hotel, just a regular hotel on the Strip. And I didn't have any security. And I had a regular car with a guy driving it. And 2 of my best friends were in Cannes.
Who was it? Mimi and who?
Donna Chavou.
Oh, Donna was there too?
Yeah. So I didn't have a makeup artist or a hairdresser.
Who dressed you? Do you remember?
Me.
No one even gave you a dress for the premiere?
Vera, of course, gave me a dress. Vera Wang was one of my best friends still. But I had nothing. No specials. Okay. Not even a security person. Okay. Imagine being in Cannes with Basic Instinct with no security. So I get there to the event and, you know, you go in this chute with the car, you drive, there's fans everywhere. There's this red carpet that's, you know, the width of a double street, all the paparazzi are in black tie, everything. I get there. We all go onto the end of the red carpet. Me, Michael Douglas, Jean Triplehorn, Andy, Mario, we're all there together, Verhoeven. We get to the edge of the carpet and we're all supposed to go on the carpet, but the fans start screaming, Sharon, Sharon, like this. And there's thousands of fans, tens of thousands of fans. It's insanity.
Who had
right?
seen the movie that day.
Right? All day long. And Verhoeven just shoves me out onto the carpet. Now, at this point, I'm not even in an evening gown. I'm in a day dress that I bought off the rack for $40 at a South Beverly Hills shop with a couple sunflowers beaded here, right? That I thought was cute. I mean, it was a madhouse. And when I came out of there and I got in that one car with my 2 friends and tried to get back to the hotel, there were so many people over the car that my friends put me on the ground and they laid on top of me because the car was being caved in. We got back to the hotel. The next morning, we didn't know what to do. We thought, okay, we'll go down to the pool and just get some food and see like what to do and try to figure out how we were going to go to the stuff the next day. When I got back to my room and I had on a bikini and I had on a beautiful Nino Cerruti had given me this pool cover-up that was black to the ground with splits up the side that had a hood. I had that on and a pair of black high-heeled sandals. And I had purple round prescription glasses. My contacts were in the room. Came back to the room. Everything was stolen. My contact lenses, my toothbrush, the film out of my camera, all my clothes. The only thing left is what I have on my back. That's it. And my purple glasses. Everything is gone. Everybody wants my stuff. I realize I can't stay in the hotel, but I have nowhere to go. And it's the middle of Cannes. All the rooms are sold out. And I don't know what to do. And I call Mario, who's the only one I can talk to, because Mario's nice. And I tell him, I don't know what to do. And he says, well, we don't have money, always the joke. We don't have the money, ha, ha, to get you security, and we don't have this and we don't have that. I'm like, well, you have to move me because I'm not safe.
I'm not safe, yeah.
I really am not safe. I don't even have underwear, any clothes. They took my contact lenses, Mario. I'm really afraid. Of course, this is the beginning of me being difficult.
Yeah, you're asking for so much.
I am. I'm asking for the
Please
world.
protect my, my being.
And of course, I didn't make any money, so what am I doing, right? So they find out that at the DuCap, there's a house on the property of this hotel.
The Hotel DuCap, which is in Antibes, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they put us in this house, which is gorgeous. It has an upstairs, a downstairs. It's really fancy.
And you always had to pay cash in that hotel at that time, too.
Yes. So I'm trying to leave the hotel, and they've got kitchen staff, bellboys, and everybody doing what they call a buttonhole, which is where they hold arm to arm, and they try to get around us so that we can get through the lobby, which is now teeming with fans in a kind of lunacy which I had yet to ever see.
Wow.
So we're trying to get out, and I'm in my swimsuit cover-up and my glasses, and this guy comes running and he lunges at me, and the guys straight arm him, and he hits their arm and slides under with his wingtips, and the thick sole of his wingtip catches under my toenail.
Oh, Jesus.
And rips my toenail out by the roots. And I'm in my high heel sandals, and I'm trying to get out, and I'm just like, oh, but we can't stop because everybody's lunging at me. And everybody in this hotel is running and lunging at me. And they're all like these kids, these bellhops and these sous chefs from the kitchen are trying to be around us to get us out through the back. We get in the back. I lay over the hump in this one little car that we have. Donna lays on top of me, and Mimi, because she's a little bit like me with the blonde hair, puts on my glasses and pretends to be me sitting in the back and waving so we can get out of the back drive of the hotel. And I'm laying on the ground with bleeding onto the floor mat, and that's hello, you're famous.
Wow.
It was just nuts.
Now, I have, since that time, let me just tell our listeners, I have had the good fortune to be your date, not once, but twice in Cannes. And we went for, I think you were shooting Basic 2.
That extraordinary piece of cinema history.
Well, here's what I want to say. What you were so incredible. There's a couple of things. I have a few stories in there because we had some very fun times. I remember being in, I want to say, the Carlton. This is the first time we were
at the Carlton the first time.
Okay, so you were doing a press tour, and I've never been on a press tour with a movie star, and you had about 4 or 5 different changes.
Right.
And first of all, for the people who are really into fashion and glamour, the jewelers would come and open, I'm talking De Beers, I'm talking Chopard, and they would open these cases of jewels. Pick your jewels.
Yeah.
And she would take these 2 here, and she knew what to do. But you've always had exceptional taste, so you would always know what to wear with which thing. And I remember at one time you didn't wear anything underneath your outfit because you were going from one to the other.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point you took the dress off completely right in front of my face, and I'm standing there, and Sharon Stone's "You Know What" is right in front of my face. I was going to tell you that. I said, do you know how many straight men would offer me $100,000 right now, cash, for the luxury of being where I am at this moment? But what you did was so great. We were going to the Palais, and you said, I think Paulette was there, I think your sister Kelly, and a couple others, and you had us get into like a circle. Mm-hmm. And you said, I really need to ground you all. You need to understand what we're going into. And I was like, oh, Sharon's being dramatic. She's doing a whole unga bunga, airy fairy thing. We all participated, and then we go to the Palais, and we get into the car, and they were shaking the vehicle. Mm-hmm. There were now, I would say, 8 or 10 security folks detail on you. Mm-hmm. I mean, France loves their great beauties. I just have to say, they really do.
It's really something when you're in a car and the fans start.
Terrifying.
And they literally will pull the bumpers right off the car.
It was unbelievable.
They'll rip them right off the car. They'll rip the license plates off the car. They'll climb on the car to the point where it's black inside. You can't see. And I've been in it where they have to call SWAT to get my car out from under the people. And I've been in it to the point where when I get in the building, my clothes are literally torn into shreds, just literally in pieces.
On this occasion, you and I got out of the car. I just remember the two of us were there, and they cleared the red carpet for you. It was a Star Wars premiere, and George Lucas be damned. It was like, who? No, George left, and then Sharon comes, and they're chanting, Sharon, Sharon, Sharon. You beckoned me to come with you. And as we're walking on the red carpet, you pushed me forward and you said, pretty cool, huh? And you had taught me to, when you threw your head back, to sort of smile as you do it, because they'll get you in a smile as opposed to some. And I did it. And it was one of the most surreal, extraordinary moments of my entire life that I remember to this day. We went up those stairs and met every dignitary and so forth. And it was just amazing. And thank God we grounded ourselves, because nobody, until they go through that, can understand the power of people,
of the impact,
wanting a piece of you or wanting to know why you're there, what you're about, etc. It was just extraordinary.
It is big.
It was great.
There are no stairs like those stairs.
Oh, my God.
Right.
And you don't get tired of it. You've been there, I don't know how many dozen times.
No, because I think it's from the deepest part of yourself. This is where you as an artist say to the public, this is me saying to you, I love being an artist, and I love being here for you. It's the biggest moment where you're engaged with your people that you are making these films for, where you get to walk up those stairs where you can actually see everybody.
And it's a sea of people.
It's a sea, and they say, either we like you or we don't, and you say, I really appreciate it.
Oh, beautifully said. I read a story that Sidney Poitier, when he would go to the Oscars, would be playing whatever he was playing, ball or exercise, whatever, or just watching television. And he'd wait until the last possible moment before he jumped in the shower and got in his tuxedo.
Yeah.
And I've seen you prepare hours for the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes and the Emmys. And I've also seen you just turn it out so elegantly with almost no effort. And to me, that's real beauty. We were on a yacht another time in Cannes, and you were like, oh, shoot, we got to get to the red carpet.
Right.
And you popped into this fabulous mini dress, threw some heels on, did your own hair, your own makeup, and you were spectacular. And we had such a great time. I think we went right out the back and we went and got pizza, if I recall, afterwards.
Yeah, everybody always goes to a fancy party, and I always go to this pizza place and have pizza afterwards. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I have to say, I want to talk a little bit about some of the journey after the fame. You did have a couple of people who really did take you under their wing.
Oh, yes.
And by the way, I want to say, and you've been really good about this, you've done that with a lot of young folks. You've done that mentorship.
Yes.
Who were your mentors when you became famous to teach you about fame?
I went to Book Soup, and I bought a book called Fame the Unrequited. It's almost like a textbook on fame, and it was really helpful to me. It's more of a book you might study in college. It's more like a textbook type of book. And it really discusses fame, the fame of Jesus, for example, the different types of fame, what fame means in the world. It's more of a treatise on fame itself. And that was very helpful for me to just look at it like, there's fame. What is that thing that is fame? To look at it as its own Rubik's Cube. And I also read Kierkegaard's Fear and Trembling, which was helpful to me personally, but that has to be whatever your deal is. But for me, it was about faith is the question and faith is the answer. For me, I wanted to look at fame objectively. Because when you get famous, it's like as what Sly said to me, is suddenly you're walking down the street and everybody's doing this. And you don't know if they're going for the pen or the gun.
Oh, wow.
And that's what becomes so unsettling. Because everybody's doing that, but you don't know why. And you just feel constantly in this unsettled place that you always have to figure it out, and you always have to fix it, and you always have to be ready. And you are always trying to figure out what everybody else's intentions are. And people want to blame famous people. I mean, there's all these famous people who are like, don't look them in the eyes. People don't want you to look them in the eyes, which I think is a little too far. But I understand why people do that, because they don't want to have to figure everything out.
Weren't there people that were really kind to you, like Faye Dunaway?
Faye was great to me. And Shirley MacLaine was great to me. And Diane Cannon was great to me. Angie Dickinson was great to me. All these women were so great to me. Shirley had me out to her house in Malibu and really helped me so much. Because you got to remember, she was the only girl in the Rat Pack. So she has survived this long. No matter when people say, oh, she's crazy because she believed in reincarnation. Well, I'm mostly difficult, but she was crazy. But she told me what was going to happen. Every single thing. And she told me what to do about every single thing, which was really, really great. And she told me what would happen. And she told me what people would say about me when I did what I would do about what would happen. She told me everything, and so did Faye. And Faye told me, don't do what I did, which is be with a rock star and become a junkie. Don't do that. Absolutely not. You'll call me first. Don't do that. Because that's what happened to her, and that's why she became difficult to be around. And she had all these problems that she had to deal with. And Angie Dickinson was really kind to me.
Everyone loves Angie Dickinson.
She's the friggin' greatest.
Yeah.
And people really didn't know why. And Diane Cannon said to me, it's not going to be this way forever. Make sure you say please and thank you to everyone. Make sure you're really kind. Do this and this. Every movie I went on, I wrote thank you notes to every single member of the crew, handwritten to 280, 300 people.
This is when you were a star and not even a producer.
Star. Handwritten thank you notes to every single person on my cast and crew.
When did you start producing? And what made you want to produce?
I always wanted to produce and I wanted to direct. And even though I got production credits, I didn't get really respected as a producer because they would always love to come to me at any point they didn't agree with something I wanted to do as a producer and say, it's just a vanity deal. And that's very, very tiring.
Like Harvey.
Well, like everybody. It wasn't just Harvey. I mean, Harvey is a case separate and unique. I had a production deal with him, but Harvey wasn't going to produce anything with me because, let's face it, I wasn't producing what Harvey had hoped for. And so ultimately, at the end of our production deal, he let me produce a children's movie. The book was called Freak the Mighty. The movie was called The Mighty. Rob Reiner's daughter wrote it.
It was The Mighty with Jenna Rollins?
Yes.
It was wonderful.
Yes. I cast her and I cast Harry Dean Stanton because I got to pick who I cast.
Well, hold on one second,
and because I knew her and because she'd been so amazing with me over Gloria, I was like, let's cast Jenna Rollins and let's cast Harry Dean. And so I called Harry and said, will you do it? And he said, I don't like to read scripts. You tell me honestly, Sharon, should I do it or not? And I said, I'm going to get Jenna to do it. So if she does it, I really do think you should do it.
That was a great answer, by the way, because that way it's sort of like it's showing the stamp of excellence.
Yes.
By getting someone so
good.
So great. Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. So you have a nose. I'm going to say it. Say it here.
For talent, I do.
Hold on. We'll be back in a moment.
Get a glimpse into a secret part of Hollywood that few are aware of and that filmmakers rarely talk about. In the new book, Audienceology by Kevin Goetz. Each chapter is filled with never-before-revealed inside stories and interviews from famous studio chiefs, directors, producers, and movie stars, bringing the art and science of audienceology into focus. Audienceology, how moviegoers shape the films we love. From Tiller Press at Simon & Schuster. Available now.
We're back with my dear friend Sharon Stone. Sharon, let's go to Quick and the Dead.
Well, yeah. Leo and Russell.
Leonardo DiCaprio had done anything yet?
He did Gilbert Grape.
And didn't you have to almost give up some of your own salary to have him or something like that?
Well, what happened is that Mike Medavoy, I wanted Russell Crowe. And
Russell wasn't Russell Crowe.
No one knew Russell at all. Russell had done a movie in Australia called Romper Stomper.
Which was so good.
Yes, but I watch everything. I see everything everywhere all the time. And I said that he's our next Richard Burton. He's going to be unbelievable. He's very good. And this is how I always felt about Ken Watanabe. I knew Ken was a very big star. I bet an agent that he would get nominated for an Oscar for the film he did with Tom Cruise. I bet her $1,000. And she was like, yeah, I'll take that bet. And then, of course, he got nominated and she didn't want to pay because she was like, I don't have $1,000. I'm like, well, then you shouldn't have made the bet, lady. You know, because
I pay up.
Yeah, because people, you know, they want to say and do a lot of things, but people don't really get it. But I really believed in these actors. I really believed in Ken. And of course, Ken's unbelievable on Tokyo Vice. I mean, I knew it. I always knew it. Just like I know it about Russell, I knew it when I laid eyes on Leo. I've seen another actor recently, and I know it about this guy. But
there was no money for him or something? Like, wasn't there?
Well, because they had to push 2 weeks to get Russell. Because Russell was on another film in Australia.
And they were going to lose Leo?
No, they didn't want to pay Leo, because Leo would have been $1 million, because, you know, men make a lot more even when they're new. So,
and he must have been 16 years old or something.
He was 17. He turned 18 on our show, and Kelly and I took him go-kart racing.
Oh.
So what I said is, if you'll push for Russell, Mike, I'll pay Leo out of my own salary.
Oh, wow.
So that's what we did.
That's commitment. That's commitment. And it's also a producer. Somebody told me.
Because I'm committed to the work.
Somebody just told me, what's the definition of a producer? 6 words they described, and I'm going to screw it up, but let's see if I can do it. They said, take the shit, get it done. I think that was it. And that's what a producer is.
That is it.
I mean, it's all about the work.
Yes.
Eleonora Duse,
yes,
the famous Italian actress, said a quote that I have in my closet. It says, the work, the work, the work.
Yeah.
And I always think of that whenever I get a little full of myself. Well, it's not happened much. When I was younger, maybe more so. Now I'm tickled and I'm humored by things. I have a much different perspective, you know, when things come my way. But especially as a young actor coming up, it was always about focus on the right thing. So it's such a great lesson to impart in this
really
podcast.
The only thing.
Yeah.
All the rest of this malarkey.
Illusion and icing.
And ego, and lazy. There's so much lazy. So much like just waiting for somebody to do your part.
Yeah.
Oy.
So you produced that. Did you produce other stuff, or was it just too difficult to do?
No, I've done lots of other things.
Did you actually have a hands-on? On that movie, you did really everything from the casting.
Yeah, I've been brought in by studios on casting sessions to help them choose people for films over the years.
Other people know that you have a nose for it.
Yes.
Do you know what you're good at? I know you know it, but you never really have done it. You must direct.
Well, you know, I wanted to, but they wouldn't let me.
Whose wouldn't let you?
I went to the studio.
I know, but fuck
relentlessly, and they wouldn't give me a budget to direct.
Let's get it done.
I think it's time for me to do a series. And I think if I do a series, I'll certainly direct within the series that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you want to create it as well?
I have a treatment for a pilot that I've written that I think is really quite great.
Oh, good.
Yeah. A 3-camera comedy.
Now, a 3-camera comedy, that just stopped me.
Yeah. Because I think the live audience 3-camera comedy is something we really need again.
You know, I don't know if you remember, you did this little nothing reading at the LA Library.
Oh, I've done a few of those. I love those.
I think it was with Jimmy Woods, and you were so spectacular. And I said to Neil, I turned to Neil and I said, she's got to do Broadway. This is like crazy.
Oh, we did. We had the greatest
but you
time.
really had the sense of the stage, and you really didn't come from the stage.
No.
And yet you had it.
Yeah.
Which
We
I
did the
thought-
Diary of Adam and Eve, Mark Twain's. It was great.
Really great.
Yeah.
Really great. You are painting now,
Yeah.
which I'm very aware of. I happen to be the proud owner of 5 pieces, and they're magnificent. And you just finished a very successful show, I know, in the Bay Area. You have another show opening very soon.
I have a show in Berlin right now.
Is it still running in Berlin?
Yeah, through July.
Where's the next?
Maybe
possible?
Korea. And I have a show in Vienna next year.
Wow. Are you creating all new stuff for it, or is it going to be stuff that...
All new, I think. All new.
What turned you on to painting? What brought
I
you
always
into
painted.
that?
You know, my aunt, Vaughn, had 2 masters. One of her masters was in painting.
I wish I knew her. She sounded like Auntie Mame.
Very much so. You know, she was a great beauty.
Stunning in those pictures.
Even in her youth, even in these small towns in Pennsylvania, men landed in helicopters in my grandmother's backyard to get a look at my aunt. She was so gorgeous. She was so beautiful. She had long black hair and like just stunning and brilliant, of course. She was skied like unbelievable skier, you know, great athlete, great golfer, 2 master's degrees, had this amazing flair about herself. I mean, who does that? She had a master's in English lit and a master's in painting, and was this...
She got you.
Well, we just got each other.
That's what I mean.
You know,
right?
we really...
But I know you appreciated her, but she really appreciated you.
Oh, yeah. Even when I was in college, she would come and stay with me in my dorm room. And honest to God, you know, like I've never been much of a drinker, but she was. And she took me out when I was in college and we got drunk, which was for me like kind of a lot. And I remember in the morning, I woke up and I was like, oh my God. And she was in the other bed in the dorm room and she took out her purse and she had a flask in her purse. And she took a little bit out of the flask and put it back in her purse and slid her purse across my dorm room floor and said, have some. It's a hair of the dog.
It's the hair of the dog. Or I was going to say almost like the prairie oyster or that.
Yeah, she goes, hair of the dog, and then we'll go get something to eat. And I was like, wow.
You used your fame in a lot of great ways philanthropically. You have been the head of AmFAR that took over for Elizabeth Taylor. Did you learn that from mom, dad, both of them? Like, it was always about giving. And
Mom.
Wow. Tell me about that.
Well, you know, as I said, we grew up in a very modest environment. And my mother's very dear friend, Betty, lived, you know, half a mile away and had 8 kids and 0 money. And they were such a happy family and such a chaotic family, everybody running up and down the stairs. The house was just a tumble. And my mom, we would always do, for Christmas and Thanksgiving, we would do the Thanksgiving turkey, the Christmas ham, all the fixings for the whole family and gifts for the whole family, and then leave it secretly on their porch. And we'd stop the car like a block-ish, what would be about the block-ish of a street away, and then coast, and then jump out of the car and quietly put it on their steps. And I mean, that was just something we always did. And then, like when my mom and dad were going to someone's house for dinner, my mother, I so distinctly remember her putting a wet washcloth in a Ziploc bag and putting it in her purse and putting scissors in her purse and tape. And in the newspaper, she would put the newspaper open in the trunk of the car. And then my dad would drive until they drove past a field with flowers in it. And then my mother would walk barefoot into the field and cut armloads of flowers and put them in this newspaper in the trunk. And then my dad would roll it up and my mother would then put ribbon around it. And then my mother would sit down in the front seat of the car and then my dad would wash her feet with the wet washcloth that she had in her bag. And then they would take this big thing of flowers wrapped in newspaper to whoever's house they were going to for dinner.
Oh, man. I remember your sister Kelly, who happens to also be one of our dearest friends, shares your heart, and the two of you, multiple Christmas Eves going downtown and throwing...
Downtown.
And throwing sleeping bags out to the homeless folks.
Yeah.
On Skid Row.
Yeah.
You did that many years.
Yeah.
And you had Planet Hope.
We started that with Planet Hope, which is a charity that my sister and I started for homeless mothers and their children. And we did a thing for, over 20 years where we got people, friends, and businesses to give us money, and we bought sleeping bags by the score so we could get them in discount, and we got cube trucks. And then we would get a couple of guys from the Raiders to ride in the back of the trucks with us because they had such great throwing arms. And so we would go through all downtown Los Angeles, and then we would throw the bags to all the homeless people.
Wow.
And the Raiders were amazing because there'd be some homeless people that really couldn't get up from their tent city. And we'd go I would do the yelling, I'd whistle and go, heads up, look alive. And then the guy would throw the bag and the bag would land right at their feet. Boom. And we'd be like, Merry Christmas. And we did it on Christmas Eve. And my dad, of course, would come with us and my brothers. And my younger brother, Pat, who passed away last year, he and I would do the AIDS Street because everyone else was too afraid to go in. Because there's a street in downtown Los Angeles that's chain linked off where all the people with AIDS live, who don't have AIDS medication, who are living untreated with AIDS.
Why did AIDS have such a meaning for you? I mean, I know you have such compassion for so many things, drilling wells in Africa, malaria.
The wells were about AIDS also, because it turned out that these pregnant women in Africa would take the antiretroviral medication, but then they would have a baby that was AIDS-free. They would have HIV/AIDS. They'd have an AIDS-free baby, but if they gave it the breast milk, the baby would get AIDS. And it was either that or the filthy malaria-ridden water. Yeah. So I started to realize getting the law passed that they had to take the antiretroviral drugs wasn't enough. I had to go and then put in clean water wells. It was a terrible Sophie's choice. You're going to give them malaria or HIV. So I went to start putting in water wells in these third world environments so that the babies could have clean water with their breast milk because it was so awful.
What was it about AIDS? Was it because of your upbringing as a young model and seeing so many of your friends die?
Well, I was in Cannes and Elizabeth couldn't come to do her HIV thing. She'd been 3 years into the HIV thing and she couldn't come. And they said, could you take her place? And I was panic-stricken. What young actress wants to step into some big movie star's shoes on HIV when nobody did charity then? I
bet all of your representatives were like, don't
no.
do it.
They said no. Yeah, everybody said no.
Right.
Except Cindy Berger. And Cindy Berger, who got hives at the slightest mention of pressure of any kind, her entire neck was covered with hives. And she said, this is going to ruin your career. And I said, I know, but I want to do it. And she said, if you don't do it, I'm never going to talk to you again. And I said, does that mean you're going to do it for free? Because I can't pay you additionally to do this PR on this. And she said, I'm going to do it for free.
Wow.
And so we agreed to do it. And even Andy Vanya said, you look like Zsa Zsa Gabor. Nobody thinks that this is a good idea. Don't do this. You look stupid. And I thought
it raised your profile tremendously.
But nobody else. I mean, really, it was brutal. And my career, it was terrible for me. But it was good for me as a human.
Any regrets? I was just going to...
Zero. I mean, there's so many things that I haven't done that haven't been good for my career. But they've been very good for me. And they've been good for my mental health. and they've been good for me as a parent, and they've been a good example for my son who's going into the business. They've been right for me. And I'm okay that people want to say that I'm difficult or they want to say I'm a diva or whatever. But like SAG can pull every single one of my work records. I'm on time. I know my lines.
You do, baby. I got to tell you, you do.
There's no trouble getting me out of the makeup trailer.
Never.
And Marty Scorsese said to me, I've had actresses I can't get out of the trailer. I never had one I couldn't get in the trailer until I met you.
You were up his tuchus. You wanted to learn everything you could from
Right.
him.
And I had someone get me a school desk that has the desk attached to the chair, and I put that outside of the set. And I never went back to my trailer because I'm not that person. And no director I've ever worked with will tell you I'm difficult. It's only people who haven't worked with me that will say I'm difficult.
Last question here, because we could talk for 6 more hours, and I need to let you go because you've been so generous so far with your time. I want to ask you, you've received so many accolades, so many awards, and I got to go to many of those dinners and many of those acceptance speeches. Most recently, you were awarded the UN Citizen of the Year.
We haven't talked about your recent award, which I didn't get to go to, which was the greatest thing that ever happened.
Thank you.
You getting this award.
American Cinematheque.
And people saying these things about you and getting to watch you build your career and watching the naysayers say, no, you can't do that. No, Kevin, you're not going to do that. Not only you can't do that, but we're not going to let you do that. And we're going to crush you. And we're not going to allow you to be that. And then to watch you become the only person who does that and the most important person who does that has been so thrilling for me. So thrilling.
Well, thank you so much. By the way, you were in the tribute reel, which I know you got to see recently, and you were so wonderfully emotional and supportive.
Well, I know what it cost. I know what it took. I know every step of what it took. And you and I are probably the only people who know of each other's life what it costs and what it takes to be in the business and to survive in the business and to have people, well, like you said, people will call you an asshole, right? I saw a wonderful quote the other day that said, we're here to get life's lessons. You get all the joyful lessons from your friends, and you get all the hard lessons from people we call assholes.
Oh, that's marvelous.
Right? So sometimes I feel really okay about being an asshole.
So you have, as I said, been honored. So was there one particular award, a particular recognition that just is above the rest?
I think the best time I ever had getting an award was when I got an award at the Peninsula and Ronan Laird and Quinn gave it to me. And it was from the Women's Health Award. And the kids came and gave it to me, and each one of them stepped up.
And said something?
And said something. And they were pretty young at the time, 16, 10, and 11.
Great.
And it was so wonderful and adorable and fun and
well,
great.
That tells me who you are. Well, I know who you are, but it tells our listeners who you are, because I was certain you were going to say the Nobel laureates prize.
Well, that was great because
yeah, but you know, the fact that you brought up the kids.
Then I got to party with everybody that had won a Nobel Prize. And I have to say, I've done that a few times because I got to host the Nobel Prize concert and
get to know
the Nobel Prize winners that have now become my friends and colleagues. And to party with them and hang out with them is really like, that's the room. You want to know a room? That's the room.
Oh, that's the room.
That's the room.
The room where it happened. The room where it happened from Hamilton.
It really is the room where it happens.
You know, it's funny. I've never asked you, but I know your biggest accomplishment are your children.
Oh, yeah.
I know that.
Oh, yeah. And it's always a work in progress because the teacher is the student, right? So you're always working with them, and the work you do with them, you're expanding and you're learning and you're growing. And you have to let go and give a lot to be a good parent. You're not making your kids to be like you. They're here to bring a lot for you to expand and understand. And it's an endless process of growth and development. Being a parent's very exciting.
Well, I got to have some sense of what that felt like because of you. I have been fortunate enough to step into a parental role when those kids were growing up, and
you sure have.
You gave me that.
The
gift.
kids coming to your house for breakfast on their way to school.
They had their own room, their own drawers in our house.
Exactly.
You know how you know you're in someone's life? I taught the kids how to ride their bike and their car.
Right? Exactly.
And now being so close with Roan, and he's doing so well and working at Screen Engine and starting his career in the business. It's just so fantastic. So it's everything, isn't it?
It has been such an amazing journey, and that we get to watch each other and see each other's development. And it's also really funny because people in the business don't even know we know each other.
I think some do because a little bit. Do you know how many times people say to me, "Can you just hand Sharon a script?" And I say, and listeners hear me, I don't mix business and our family life.
No.
I just don't do it.
And I would never use you for work.
And we don't do that. We have always, but we've always been that way.
Everybody knows how to call an agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we've always been so authentic with each other. And if I've had some real places that I needed some advice that only somebody of your stature could offer, I'd come to you, because a lot of people can't give you advice on certain business issues.
Well, a lot of people won't either.
Yeah. Well, how much do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Sharon, what can I say?
Love you.
I love you more. To our listeners, I hope you enjoyed our interview. I encourage you to follow Sharon on her social media at Sharon Stone and to check out her incredible artwork. For more filmmaking and audience testing stories, I invite you to check out my book, Audienceology, at Amazon or through my website at kevingetz360.com. You can also follow me on my social media. Next time on Don't Kill the Messenger, I'll welcome veteran studio executive, film and TV producer, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Devon Franklin. Until then, I'm Kevin Goetz, and to you, our listeners, I appreciate you being part of the movie-making process. Your opinions matter.